Well, here it is, my top 5 films of 2023. Why did it take so long? I don't know. Why only a top 5 and not a 10 or a 20 or a 50 like most other people? Well, I only watched like 30 or so new releases in 2023, but it was a pretty pivotal year for me. 2023, although later in the year, was the year that I decided to watch more non-horror films. It was also the year I decided to change the focus of this channel to film reviews, which I'm still very new to. And it was the year that I got an unlimited movie pass at my local Regal theater, and I'm going to see as many movies as I possibly can in 2024. I've already started. I might not have time to review them all, but either way, I'm enjoying the hell out of it, and I can't wait to see what movies I end up seeing by the end of the year. Anyways, enough yammering. Here's my top 5 films of 2023. I have always loved the character of Godzilla. I'd been kind of passively watching them starting with the '98 remake. I've had the same thing going on with King Kong, and when Kong Skull Island came out, my son and I really enjoyed it, and it kind of made me want more King Kong and Godzilla films in my life. I enjoyed the previous 2 Godzilla films to a certain extent, and I haven't yet seen Shin Godzilla. And even when I made the decision to see -1 in the theater, I'll admit that I didn't know much about it other than that it was getting a great response from the fans. I was excited that it was a Japanese film, though, since I feel that us Americans have been failing at this game for long enough. And like many others have already said, and probably more eloquently, this is the Godzilla film I have been waiting for. Everything I took issue from the American films was vastly improved on here. And mostly with the human characters. Human characters that I fell in love with, cared about, and would have cried like a baby had one been killed. It also showed that you can have the perfect amount of tension without the bittersweet feeling of losing a main character. I loved this film so much that I even saw it twice in the theater, and I absolutely can't wait for more. Oh, and which Toho has already said there will be a sequel, and that it will be a while because they want to take their time crafting another great film. Another thing Hollywood could learn. Film is art. You can't rush art. It's not just a product to us. I've been a David Cronenberg fan for a pretty long time at this point, and don't worry, I'm not gonna make this about him. It's just that I was a bit narcissistic about Brandon at first. I thought that maybe he was using the Cronenberg name, as an easy paycheck. And I have never been more happy to admit that I was wrong. I still haven't seen Brandon's debut feature length, and I only watched Possessor like a few months ago. I loved it though. So yeah, Infinity Pool was my introduction to the man's work, and it made me an instant fan. Mia Goth and Alexander Skarsgård turned in 2 of my favorite performances of the year. At times it was a psychedelic nightmare, and those were my favorite parts. The entire film is just visceral and shockingly brutal at times. It's a cynical outlook on the disgusting entitlement of rich people and what some will do just because they can get away with it. And it was a great premise for a film, and I appreciated the hell out of it. Especially being what used to be the middle class. Brandon Cronenberg is here to stay. Talk to Me was another film that I had not planned on seeing. I'm a huge A24 fan, but I was not sold at all on the trailer. Luckily, a friend talked me into it because you can tell that you are in for something potentially great within like the first few minutes. It has one of the most intense opening scenes I had seen in a while. Evil Dead Rise wishes it had that. I loved the cast, especially Sophie Wilde, who I'm positive will be a huge star. I just see a ton of potential in her. A cast compromise of mostly relatively unknown actors, a feature-length debut directed by 2 YouTubers. This film was the ultimate underdog. And I love that it combined brutal violence with a lot of emotion and heart. I don't see those things combined this effectively very often, and I absolutely can't wait for the sequel, which is coming soon. I think it's coming out this year. With the way that Talk to Me ended, told me that you can easily make a franchise out of this. One that could go on as long as anyone would really want it to, and it's got potential to be one of the greatest franchises ever. But time will tell. So obviously, I loved The Iron Claw. I reviewed it. I'm pretty sure I gave it a 10 out of 10. If not, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. On a personal level, the film has its flaws, but I still loved it. It's an incredibly heart-wrenching story, but there's an underlying theme of hope. And if you're passing on it because you aren't a wrestling fan, which I get, but you don't need to be, to appreciate this. It's about moving on, even after losing the most important people in your life. The performances here are great, especially the portrayal of Kevin Von Erich by Zac Efron. It's like career-defining, and I hope he is at least nominated for something. The story of the Von Erich family needs more than one slightly over 2-hour film. Like a miniseries would have been perfect, but I digress. You might cry like a baby, but that's okay. We all did. Wrestling fan or not, don't skip The Iron Claw. I loved this film so much. So much that it bumped The Iron Claw down from the number 1 slot, which it had sat there for quite a while, and with good reason. In 2023, Alexander Payne gave us a masterpiece. It might be his best work yet, and the man directed Sideways, for Christ's sake. The performances of Paul Giamatti, Divine Joy Randolph, and newcomer Dominic Sessa were 3 of my favorites of the entire year. This is a new Christmas movie classic, even if I wouldn't necessarily call it a Christmas film. It already has that timeless feeling, like a spiritual successor to Trains, Planes, and Automobiles. It's just so full of emotion and heart. It's funny, it's depressing, it's happy, it's sad, but most of all, it's uplifting. Masterfully written, directed, and acted, I can't find a single flaw here or minute of filler. Paul Giamatti reminds us that he is one of the greatest actors of all time, and the other 2 leads show us that they are forces to be reckoned with in their own right. If there's a better example of a modern classic, I don't know what it is. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you for watching. Feel free to let me know what your top 5 or top 10 or 20 or 50 is. I'd love to read it, and take care. We will talk soon. Cheers.